Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Found Family. I'm so excited. I have another very special guest with me today, Fallon, and we are going to be talking about how to use the 3 pillars to self-heal. A behaviorist and avid athlete, Fallon started her coaching business in 2019. After returning home from living abroad in Prague, she was motivated to return and give back to those involved in the sport that led her to massive internal physical and mental alignment. Crew. She believes every man and woman deserves to live life invigorated through a sound body and mind so that they can crush every goal and become the strongest version of themselves. Fallon is a NASM Certified Personal Trainer, rowing coach, and accomplished rower with a first place finish at the 2019 Masters National Championships. Congratulations, amazing, and hello, Fallon. Welcome to Found Family Podcast.
Hi, thank you. I am super excited to be here.
I am super excited to be here too. And to my Found Family, I just want to add super quickly that Fallon and I met on TikTok. It is such an incredible platform, and what a pleasant surprise to be able to make like such an awesome connection like over TikTok. And for those of you that are not on TikTok, I highly encourage you to go check it out. It's become like one of my favorite platforms.
Yeah, it was really incredible. Like it was perfect timing, just like how I saw your TikTok, we connected and then bam, everything just kind of grew from there.
Yeah, it's amazing. And then happy coincidence that we're also like in the same region of the United States. So like after COVID, totally hanging out. It's great. I'm like super pumped.
Yeah, it was like really just so funny. New York, New Jersey, it just perfect.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm excited to talk today about these 3 pillars, and we'll go into that. And I wanted to start off the soul chat talking about this strongest version of ourselves. I love how you started that. So can you share with us what it means to become the strongest version of ourselves and how you've become the strongest version of yourself?
So I really think that when you like go to set out, on this journey to become the strongest version of yourself, that it takes action, like no matter what, it takes any kind of action, whether it's messy action or it's coordinated action. It takes you going through the motions and believing that you can actually, do them. So in crew, a lot of this comes down to discipline and focus, the habits that you have to instill in yourself. Like waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning is not easy. And it's like
Mhm.
you actually have to get used to and create the habit around having a morning routine to get yourself ready to go out on the water for practice. It includes self-care, alignment, being really centered with your purpose or your why, so that you can actualize. Like we all talk about, well, in the behavioral world, even in the psychology world, we talk about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And for you to get to the top of that pyramid, that self-actualization, you have to go through all the other steps to get there. So becoming the strongest version of yourself is getting to the top of that pyramid and going through all the steps along the way. Now, for me, I still think that there are things that I can do just because I'm the type of person that, I like to try and better myself no matter what. But I think how I've become the strongest version of myself has really just been working on those habits, working on those routines, and really being disciplined with myself to do what it is I set out to do. If I, am rowing, then it's like, all right, wake up, set that alarm for like 4 o'clock in the morning and like go through the motions, get the breakfast, get the granola bar, whatever it may be, fill up your water bottle and get out. So it's been a journey, and each time it's different, but it's really just making sure that you take the steps and you do what you set out to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow. Beautifully said. Thank you for all of that. I'm sitting here nodding, like, wow, yes, like I need to write that down, and that should be like a mantra. And the 2 main takeaways, as you said, is like action and habits. And
Mm-hmm.
that those are very important components. And I absolutely agree with you and would say that what's helped me also become the strongest version of myself is very, similar things um, in my own journey, and that's really what's so beautiful about all of us is that we all have these tools available, and then it's like how we use them to become the strongest version of ourselves is going to be unique. And then, you know, we'll continue like developing those things, but action is such a big one. I feel that the way you also phrased it, like no matter what kind of action, even if it's messy action, like I just wanted to bring an awareness to that and how empowering that is, because I think that a lot of the times we as people think that like action has to be perfect, or action has to be this massive step, or like, you know, right? I mean, there's this idea, and I don't know if it's a belief system from our society, from, you know, I don't know where it originated from, but there is this idea that like action is only counted if it's like this big step. And I love how you said just like any type of action, even if it's messy, because that is absolutely what brings you closer to reaching this like strongest version of yourself. So thank you for sharing that. Love, 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 and totally agree.
Absolutely. Yeah. Anytime. I mean, it really is true though. Like if you really like most people have these goals, right? Whether it's getting the house, getting the job, getting whatever it may be, but you're not going to get to that big goal unless you take the little steps in between. And like you said, like we have this idea that you have to have this perfect thing and it has to be this perfect step and this perfect action. And really, you see the perfect action, right? Like that's what you see visibly, but you don't see what goes on behind the scenes. And a lot of the time it's that messy, like learning stage and just doing things so that you're involved or that you reach out to people or that you're in a group. But it's like, that's really what leads to that big, like almost perfect. Like nothing's ever really perfect,
Right.
you know, it's that almost perfect, like, wow, I achieved this goal.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So true. And thank you also for sharing about perfectionism, because I think I've spoken about perfectionism in some form or another in like various episodes, because that was something that I really struggled with. Like talking about how I've, you know, really had to break through limiting beliefs and overcome certain things and like develop new ways to shift my mindset and shift my perspective. Like perfectionism was a huge one for me, because I was this people pleasing perfectionist and felt this pressure that if I didn't do something perfect, it wasn't right, or it wasn't good enough, or it didn't count. And that's why I said the word counting, because I know that that was like a truth for me at the time. And I couldn't say I'm not perfect. Like it actually hurt to say like I'm not perfect. And now I celebrate it. I'm like, I'm not perfect. No one is. There's no such thing. So really just love how you said that, and thank you again.
No problem. Absolutely. It's true.
Yes. And we also talked about, you had mentioned like pulling your own weight, and I really love how you shared that. So pulling your own weight, how it sets you up for success. I would love to ask if you can explain what this means.
Absolutely. I love this. So, just to give you a little like idea, just to set the scene is, I'm going to go into an example with a boat.
Perfect.
So in a boat, you can have one person or you can have multiple people, but typically most of the time there's more than one person in a boat. And if you want to do well, or, you know, win the race, you know, have that success, you need to be able to do your part. You need to be able to pull your own weight. And a lot of the time, I actually think about it like that analogy with the airplane, where you have to put your mask on first before you can help somebody else. If you want to help the whole boat, you have to do your part. You have to pull your weight, and you have to do what you can do best in order for you all to succeed. Because we're not perfect. Just going back, you know, to what you said before, we're not perfect, but we are good at some things that other people might not be good at. So it's important that you really take on that responsibility and pull your weight and do what you're good at, because then you're going to absolutely succeed.
Wow. I have goosebumps. I need to like take a moment, because again, beautifully said. It's like, so the way that you're phrased, it's like short, sweet, to the point. Love it. And I love the analogy of the boat, because I'm such a visual person, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners can also relate to being like a visual learner. And I saw this boat, with people in it, and just knowing like what I know about crew, which is not a lot, but knowing that, to your point, it's like you all have your strengths, and it's this collective effort to work together. But unless each person is pulling their own weight, as you said, the boat will not be able to go, you know, quickly, or won't be able to move. Like, imagine if there isn't synchronism. So there's so many things that I can, like, what I'm seeing and gathering and hearing right now is like, number one, self-awareness, right? Like you were talking about how important it is for us to really acknowledge and see those strengths within us that we have that others might not have. And really, like, self-awareness, I will say this forever, I truly believe that self-awareness is step one to healing, learning, and growing. And it's through self-awareness that we get to know ourselves, we get to know our strengths. And then once you know your strengths, you learn how to use them, and you learn how to, like, strengthen them. And the second part of it all is like, you are, you know, this collective energy, like this idea of being a part of something bigger than yourself. And like through this collective effort, you are using your strengths that you've identified to help the greater good, like whether it's a team, or you're at work, or you're in a partnership, you're in a, you know, like with your friends. Like it really, it goes across like the whole scale of just every area of our lives. So what a powerful metaphor and analogy. I really love that.
Yeah, it's really kind of crazy how this one sport is so, like, it's so applicable to a lot of things in life.
Applicable, that's a great word. Yes, that's exactly it.
Yeah, it's funny, and like it's when you're going through it, you don't really notice it. But then when you look back on it, you're like, wow, I am so aware that, like, I am good at doing this, you know, and it's different for everybody, like we were talking about. And, you know, when you're put into a boat, your coach puts you there because he sees or she sees something in you that you have, and you know that you have it. So it's amazing that everybody together works towards that goal of winning. And it's an incredible feeling too. That synchronization you were talking about, we call it swing. And when a boat is swinging together, it's like, it literally gives you goosebumps.
Wow. And I had the goosebumps again right before you said the word goosebumps, because like that's so powerful and empowering. And it's like, I'm obsessed with like teamwork and collaboration, and like this is really, to your point, like this incredible like that crew is so applicable to be able to really share these lessons that you've learned, and to relate it to like our everyday lives. I love that. That is so awesome. Wow. Of course. Oh my gosh, thank you. And then to really, like, you know, further strengthen all of what you're talking about, as this topic that we are talking about is like how we can use these three pillars. It's like all of these things have been the stepping stones to talking about the three pillars. Can you share with us what the three pillars are to self-heal?
Yes, absolutely. So the first one is to become aware. It really is, because when you know what it is that you are struggling with, what it is you are having a hard time with, or what it is that you're even doing well, then you know going forward in your journey that you need to, like, work on these things, or, you know, maybe use these things to this kind of advantage, right? So the first pillar is, you know, awareness. And then the second pillar is action. So being able to take that messy action and to go through the steps. The third pillar is actually kind of one that I don't think we do enough, and that's celebration. So a lot of the time, you know, we can pick things out, you know, we can become aware very easily. We can take action very easily because it's, you know, easy to pick out what we have to do and kind of filter what we don't have to do. But then when we finally reach the point of going through all of that action to make our journey a positive, you know, enlightened and healing journey, we don't really celebrate it enough. And we really truly do need to take the time to be like, yes, I did this, I accomplished this, and it's making me a better person. So that is the third final pillar of self-healing.
Wow. I literally felt my physiology shift as you said that. Like my body wanted to take a deep breath, because that final pillar sounds like a breath of fresh air. How often do we, again, in our culture, celebrate, like, or not even celebrate, like we put so much like emphasis on continuing. Like, you got a goal, boom, done, you got it, next one. You got another goal, boom, done it. And it's like we don't celebrate the wins. We don't celebrate the progress. That's a big one too, right? Like we totally don't pause, because we're such a culture of like go, 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 rush, rush, rush. We don't take those moments to pause, to reflect, to celebrate. Like I am so with you on that. And actually speaking about crew and like using an analogy of like working out, something that I talk about in my one-on-one sessions during coaching is like the same analogy of scale victories and non-scale victories. So like if we were talking about a fitness goal and we were to say, okay, we've got a goal of losing this many pounds by this date, or not even a date, but like we want to lose this much weight, that's a number. And that number is going to be physically reflected on the scale. That is like a scale victory. But all of the things that lead up to that scale victory are the non-scale victories. So going back to what you said, the action, the habits, these like things that we're doing. So if we're talking in terms of nutrition, it's like how much water, what is your nutrition? What's your sleep pattern? You know, like there's all these things that lead to the scale victory. So it's the same thing when it comes to like our mental health. It's like how many mind push-ups, how many things are you doing, you know? And in general, if we don't stop and take like a progress picture, I was talking with a client about this the other day, right? If we don't stop and take a progress picture, sometimes we get so used to looking at ourselves in the mirror, physically and mentally, like emotionally speaking, like we're always looking at ourselves and we don't stop and realize like how far we've come. And I know this for myself, when I started my fitness journey 2 years ago, there were times where I would look at myself in the mirror and still envision the person that was like, you know, a little bit heavier. And I would be like, oh, I don't really see much that's changed. But then I would take this progress photo and I'd be like, wow, actually, like I see the physical difference. But also, because it's not all about the physical, it's not all about the number on the scale, it's about how do you feel. And then I would be like, okay, so let me also celebrate the non-scale victories from like a mental perspective, like a mental and emotional well-being perspective. I feel stronger. I have more energy. I'm able to do things that I wasn't able to do. I feel more confident. I feel more like joyful. Like there were so many things that happened, but I needed to stop and celebrate. And like I just like, that was such a run-on sentence, but like it's just I celebrate that you are sharing and encouraging us and empowering us to celebrate, because it is so important. Like it really is. And you're right, we don't do it enough.
Yeah, I mean, even as a coach, I get a lot of my athletes and a lot of my clients come to me and they're like, oh, you know, the biggest thing is how can I get a faster 2K, right? And so their focus, like you said, is a scalable, it's a numbers thing. So you can measure it, right? And of course, you know, I tell them, you know, there's a plan. We can absolutely set you up with a workout plan, but what they don't realize is that throughout the course of time, each little thing that they're doing is adding up to that scalable victory. And there's one girl in my mind, and she sticks out in my mind so much. And she did so many things to get to the point of like breaking this PR. And she's like, Coach, I've never done this before. Thank you so much. I feel inspired. I feel motivated to keep going. I feel like I can actually contribute. And like, she could contribute before. There's nothing different. But the reason that she was doing it, like the reason she felt that way was because she finally took the step back and was like, wow, I can celebrate this. You know, like this is an accomplishment. And it like from that point forward, it changed everything for her. So it really is important to celebrate, because if you don't celebrate, when will you celebrate?
Mic drop. You're
Yeah.
so right. You're so right. And
Yeah.
something is coming to mind that I'm feeling like compelled to share. So not sure who of our listeners like needs to hear this, but I think that, you know, as we're talking about celebration, a synonym or something that came to mind that's similar to celebration is like gratitude. And I think that because there are certain things that have like gone mainstream or like are overused, and sometimes people think about words and they overlook the significance and like the importance of it because it's like overused or oversaid. Unfortunately, I feel like gratitude is kind of in that bucket where like everyone's like, just be grateful, express gratitude, and it's like unless you really know how to, or unless you really understand the importance of it or how to do it or what it can do for you, it's like, well, I don't really know. I'm in like a really dark place right now. I'm not feeling like I can be grateful about certain things. And you know, I just actually yesterday was like finishing up a bundle of like sessions with a client, and the way that she phrased it to me was like affirmations was not something that really like resonated with her because they're a little bit impersonal. And what we worked on together was basically how can we talk about like references where you feel strength and power and confidence and self-love that then translates to it being like this very personal thing. It's not this like out there, like who knows who wrote this, but it's very personal, and it starts with like celebration, really. So I think that for people who might be struggling with gratitude, to look at celebration as like a step one could be this very like empowering, very personal thing, because now you're saying, okay, I'm asking myself this question, like what can I do to celebrate myself right now? And what does that celebration look like? You know, if it means doing some type of like special self-care, you splurge on like buying yourself something nice, or this is where like understanding your self-love language comes into play, because either it's like an act of service that you do for yourself, you spend quality time with yourself, you give yourself, you know, physical touch in some way, you go get a massage, you buy yourself something. There's different ways that you can complement the success. But I don't know, I'm just feeling like led to share this right now, that I almost feel like maybe that's something that's missing from the gratitude piece, is the celebration. That when we just like, we're like, wow, I did a great job. I might not be super grateful for like the experience yet because I don't know the message or the lesson behind it, but I did a great job and I just want to like honor myself for that. So I don't know, I just wanted to share that.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I feel like that plays a lot into like the how. It's like the method and the realization of how you can self-heal. And
Mm,
that really is like when you're grateful and then you kind of like celebrate it. Like when you realize what you're grateful for and when you realize what you celebrate, then you kind of get to put them together and you're like, okay, now I know how I have to do this, or now I know how I can accomplish
yes.
this. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm sure you can agree on this too, being a coach. I feel like coaching helps to explain the how. Like
Yeah,
coaching really,
absolutely.
that I think that's like therapy helps to explain like the why, and
Mhm.
coaching helps to explain the how. And
Absolutely.
that is very important. And like I celebrate both ways to self heal, like both ways of healing in general. So yeah, I mean, that's so awesome, and I love how you shared that. And actually, this leads to the next question. So like, did not even plan for this to go in this direction. It's totally like divine intervention, divine timing. But the next question that I was going to ask you is, how can we use these three pillars to self heal?
Well, you know, like going back, like we said, to gratitude and what we're grateful for, but I even have to return back to that analogy you were talking about with nutrition and how you were kind of explaining the journey. You know, it really, like, you have to be able to kind of utilize them. So realizing what you're eating, realizing what you're, you know, consuming, realizing what that scalable number is or might be on the scale, that, and then what you want to lose, right? That awareness. And then what are you going to do, right? Are you going to eat more fruits? Are you going to eat more vegetables? How are you going to do it? By taking action, by buying foods from the grocery store instead of eating out,
Mm,
or by, you know, being conscious of what you are purchasing. So really kind of playing into that action and awareness phase, but absolutely 100% the gratitude, because when you finally reach that stage of that celebration, then you're like, wow, I did this and I am so thankful that this happened. And that's how you're going to continue along the journey. That is another big part, right? Like, sure, you can go through it once and great, happy, congratulations. But when you realize what you've done and you continue to go through it, that is when you're starting to really go through and excel that pyramid to the top of that self-actualization and really becoming the strongest version of yourself.
Yeah, I love that. And you're so right that as we gift ourselves with this, celebration and with the gratitude, it's the momentum that keeps us going. It's this motivation that we continue feeling stronger. We continue feeling capable. We continue feeling able. And through these three pillars and following these pillars in this way, and I don't want to say order, but like it really does seem like it's just a very natural flow of going in this way, because that is really like the continued, it's almost like it's on a loop. It's on this infinity loop that as we have this awareness, we have this action, and then we celebrate, that's going to keep us, that's the momentum. I think that was the other word I wanted to say. That is
Yes.
the momentum that gives us hope, that gives us excitement, that gives us a sense of fulfillment. Like there's so many things that come from repeating this loop.
Oh, absolutely. And it's funny. I actually love that you brought this up, because even as a coach, I struggle myself sometimes. And most recently, what I have been doing is I have been putting all of my focus and all of my energy into building my business. And I started to lose sight of my own journey, and that was the biggest thing for me. Like, what is going on? What is going wrong? What am I doing? And I kind of sat down one day and I have my vision board in my room. And I looked at my vision board, and one of the things on there is that I've always wanted to go to an Olympics. I've always wanted to do it. I wanted to do it back when I started crew, and even now coming back into it, years later, I was like, I really want to try and do this. And last year was the first step. And this year, obviously, the pandemic happened. And what happened was I wound up kind of putting myself aside. And I put my goals and my journey aside. And because of that, I've been driving myself nuts, and I've been losing motivation, and I've been losing that momentum. And I sat down last week and I looked at that board and I was like, I can't keep doing that. I have to try. Like, I have to try and get back on track by, going for that dream and going for that goal. And that's really like when everything started to kind of line up for me. I was like, all right, I can't really, it's not that I don't want to. Of course I want to build my business. Of course I want to help people, reach what they are capable of and create sound bodies and sound minds. But I was like, I am of no use to them if I don't try to become the strongest version of myself or hold my own weight. So when you said that, you're right. It is 100% an infinity loop. I obviously struggled to become aware of that because of what was going on for COVID. But then as soon as I did, I was like, all right, now it's easy. All I have to do is take action. And obviously right now I'm celebrating it.
Yes.
I'm talking to you. I'm like, oh my gosh, I had this realization. It was great.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I am so moved right now. That is so beautiful. And I celebrate you. And I also celebrate the fact that we are human. And for you to say, as a coach, I struggle too. As a coach, I struggle too. And there are absolutely times where that flow of the infinity, you sort of get, either if let's say it was like a stream of water, it could get stopped for a short period of time until it starts to flow again. Or if we're thinking about running, it's like you just stop to tie your shoes, or stop to take a breath, stop to drink some water, and just really honoring. I think that's another really empowering and important component of this infinity loop is just honoring the journey that you're on and honoring and celebrating that you're human. and that there will be times, no matter if you are, you know, like, I'm sure even Tony Robbins, right? It's like we're all human beings, and there are always going to be moments where we're like, okay, where on the 3 pillars am I at right now, right? Like, am I on the celebration pillar? If I am, awesome. That means that there's another cycle of awareness that's next. If I'm in the awareness pillar, what does that mean? You know, like, what's next? And as you said, right, you're like, I recognize that action was next because you had the awareness, and now you're celebrating. So like, you've gone through another loop. And even if like the visual that just came to mind as I said loop was like tying your shoes, if you were to take all the shoelaces out of your shoe and like you have to put the shoelaces back on, there's like different loops that you need to do to like be able to tie the shoe. So it's like you're going through this flow, you're putting, you know, the shoestring into the shoes to tie the loop to make a nice bow. And like that final like loop of the infinity, you know, helps you to, again, as we're talking about, like, give the momentum, give the motivation. Because I've been there. We all have been there many times where you're like, damn, I'm like emotionally tired. Damn, I'm like physically exhausted. Damn, I like kind of lost the awareness. Like, I feel a little lost right now. So that is an indicator to be like, okay, so that means that an awareness is like the pillar that I'm on. So let's take a step back. Let's ask a different set of questions to get a different set of answers. And let's work through it. Let's go through another loop of it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I actually love the analogy of the shoelaces.
Oh, thanks.
It works out perfectly. Like, it really does.
I'm so glad. And this is where, again, like, I really just like, I love how we're vibing right now. And we're like, just, you know, this flow of this conversation feels like this beautiful infinity loop where it's like, just things are like just flowing in motion. You know, I'm working on a Beachbody, program right now. And there's this woman, Jericho, who's like one of the trainers, and she does like revive. And there's something else that she does that in the middle of doing the like hard workouts where it's like upper body, lower body, hit, whatever. She does these things that are like it's like a mixture of like Jenga. Is that what the word is?
I'm not sure.
Like,
Jenga
there's
is like that game.
I know, right? Maybe I'm thinking clearly I'm not like, you know, super knowledgeable in this space, but anyway, there's different moves that she talks about. And like, you know, there's like this flow to it. And I'm just like, envisioning whether it's like Tai Chi.
Yeah. I almost feel like it's kind of like Tai Chi. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's kind of like what I'm envisioning right now is like just this fluid motion. And like, yeah, I'm loving it. So this is great.
Good. I'm glad.
Totally flowing.
Yeah.
Awesome. And so for our last question, as we are coming to a close here, and I think that, again, this is a very empowering question that every one of our listeners can really take away from, is what are the ways that we can begin self-healing today?
First, ask yourself questions. What is it that you want to do? What are your goals even? What is it that you want to see for yourself? Being able to ask yourself questions and being able to answer them is really what's going to set you on that journey. Because when you answer those questions, then you're going to know, okay, maybe it's a fitness journey, right? Like, I want to lose. Okay, so what do I want to do? I want to lose some weight. Okay, now I know going forward that I have to self-heal by watching what I'm eating and being cognizant of it and respecting my body. That is a big one. Body image is a big one. So asking yourself questions, and that really plays into the awareness, but then absolutely going for it and doing it. Don't ever, and it doesn't matter what it is, do not ever be paralyzed by what work it takes to get to that goal, because it's not going to happen overnight. Rome wasn't built in a day, right? So ask yourself questions, answer the questions, and go out on what you are setting out to do and do it. That is, those are the biggest things that I can absolutely, you know, what is the word that I'm looking for?
Share.
Offer. Yes, share. I don't know why that was so difficult to think of.
That's okay. It's totally fine. But yes, again, we're vibing. I got you.
Yes. That is like the biggest thing that I would want to share with them, because a lot of people, when they see and they think of what their goals are, they're like, I don't know if I can do that. Or it's so big and it's so scary. But no, you just take little baby steps, and
Right.
those little baby steps add up one day. It's like that song from, I think it's Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, when he's like, just put one foot in front of the other. And he's like, and soon
Oh,
you'll be walking out the door.
yes, that's such a great movie.
Yeah. Yeah. But
Oh my
that
gosh.
is so
Yeah.
entirely what it is. Like, just put one step in front of the other, and before you know it, you're going to be walking out the door. You're going to be doing what you set
Yes.
out to.
I love that. Yes. And I celebrate that you are saying like to do it in baby steps, because you're right. When we look at goals, like even for me, I have to say that it has been a goal of mine to become a certified life coach for the last like 10 years. And it seems like this extremely challenging, scary, like, am I going to be able to do it? Like I have, excuse me, visions of like motivational speaking and writing books and like work, doing these big things that like Rachel Hollis and Gabby Bernstein, who are people that I really admire, like Tony Robbins, right? I went to get my certification from Tony Robbins Life Coaching School. And that, I can't even tell you how like impossible at the time it felt, because it was like, am I going to have the money? Am I going to have the time? Am I knowledgeable enough to do this? Am I going to remember? Like there's so many things that the ego tries to tell us.
Right.
And to be able to say, I recognize that this is something that is outside of my comfort zone. I'm also going to recognize that this big goal can absolutely be taken into smaller pieces to get there gradually. And like, again, fitness is a really easy example to also use, because I've been doing this now for 2 years. It absolutely did not happen overnight. Like I was using 5-pound weights for certain things. Now I'm able to use like 12 or 15-pound weights for certain things. And just as a thought around the fitness is absolutely applicable for real life too. Some of the coaches, Autumn Calabrese talks about this in her trainings. The workouts do not get easier. You get stronger.
Yep.
And that is so true in our lives as well, is that life doesn't get easier. You get stronger. You become more experienced. You go through the cycle of learning, which absolutely includes, again, like taking messy action and trying again, and finding support systems, talking to a mental health professional if you need to, getting like whatever support that you need to help you to get there, knowing that you are able to also like self-heal and help yourself get to those pieces. And I also want to add as a final thought is like just being very honest with yourself. I think that was a component that I was like denying. It was like a self-sabotage, that I was afraid to be very honest with myself, because I thought, well, that seems impossible, or that seems scary. But that was like a limiting belief that I had to break through. So being able to like ask ourselves these questions and understand, like identify what these limiting beliefs are, break through them, create empowering references. I talk about these in my sessions, and like use that as the momentum to become part of your 3-pillar, infinity loop that we're talking about. So yeah,
Absolutely.
I celebrate all of this.
Yeah. No, honesty is key, because if you aren't honest with yourself on where you are on your journey, then are you really going to be able to get to that big goal?
You're right.
So that is absolutely key. When I first started rowing, I was like, I want to be an Olympian. I didn't know anything about crew. I was like, I was just there to learn. And what did I do? I spent hours and hours, and I paid thousands of dollars for me to be able to get to the point that I could make the 1V consistently. And I was always in the top boat. But it took being honest with myself. And it took all of those hours and all that effort for me to get there.
Yeah.
So you really have to really be true and honest with yourself, like as blunt as possible sometimes, even too. Like when I started, I was like, I don't know anything. I'm not good at anything. I don't know what these terms mean or how to do this. But every time I would kind of like, do like a little recall session with myself and be like, all right, where am I now? And I'd be like, okay, I made this boat, or I made this seat. Okay, well, what does that mean? And I would ask my coach, and I talk to my coach. Being able to talk to somebody about it who is knowledgeable is even more important too, because then they're going to be able to tell you if you're on the right track. So, but it really does come down to that honesty. And I love that you brought that up.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. And it really, it was like, it struck a chord in me not too long ago when I really had to be super honest with myself, because again, it was like, I just got certified at the beginning of this year. So I started my training last year, you know, it was like a 6-month like course and took a test and this whole thing. But it was like, even when there were those moments of like, I'm scared, I don't know what's going to happen, I also gave myself the certainty by looking at the skills, by looking at the strengths that I already possess, and just like loving on myself throughout the process. And I really think that that's also really important as we are patient through this journey. And patience is something that the universe continues to teach me, because I have, generally speaking, been a very impulsive Aries, and this idea of being patient and waiting for things was like not my cup of tea. So now that I have really like made it personal, going back to what we were saying before about like when things are this concept of like, sure, that sounds nice, I know I should do this, or I know I could do this, but until you make it personal for you, it's like, it's still this concept. But when you again internalize it, you create a belief system around it, then that also acts and serves you as a momentum and as this like driver, so that you can pull your own weight and like just celebrate yourself. So yeah, I mean, all these things, they come together and you start to realize it like as you go on. But the action piece of it, like you take action.
Yeah, that's the biggest part, because we really do get paralyzed sometimes. I'm
Yeah.
even thinking of what you were talking about when you were going to get your certification. All these questions come up, and you know, you ask yourself, can I do this? Is this something that I can afford? You know, we always ask ourselves these questions. And if we truly want to get where we intend to go, we have to be able to overcome those questions, because it's really just our minds. It's just our minds playing a big trick on us. Like it's just a way of our heads signaling, are you going to survive?
Yeah.
That is really what it is. That's all that it is. And it's nothing but an instinct. That's all it is. So it's natural, yes, but we can overcome it. People have done it plenty of times before.
Yes. And I celebrate that, and thank you for saying that word, overcoming, because that is really like the primary mission of Found Family Podcast, is to talk about how we overcome. Like that is like at the forefront of the mission of this podcast. And like, what a beautiful closing of the infinity loop to come to this, to be like, yes, you are not alone in your journey, Found Fam. You are not alone. You are a human being. You are absolutely, you know, to have these fears and these doubts, as Fallon said, is absolutely part of this human experience. And to be able to hear personal stories of overcoming, you know, again, my hope and my, you know, all that I hope and want for this podcast is to really serve as like an empowerment of having us share our stories and be like, yes, it is possible. Healing is possible. Recovery is possible. So thank you, Fallon. I am so grateful for you.
Oh my gosh.
This has been so beautiful. I really I'm feeling recharged and empowered, and like making me want to go take action. I'm like, I haven't recorded my TikTok videos today. I'm going to go out and do that now. I'm like feeling super, super like charged. This is like plugging in the battery. Yes. Nice. It's like our phones, right? Like, you know, it's like at 15%, you got to plug it back in. This is what it is. We're plugging ourselves in. We're recharging. So amazing. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely. No, thank you. I am so happy I could, you know, share this with your audience. I could share it with you. And
yes,
I'm so excited. This is like a first for me. So I'm super grateful.
Yeah. I'm so honored. Amazing. So Found Fam, I want to encourage you to support Fallon. I'm going to have a link to all of her social media and all of the goodness that Fallon is sharing and offering in the description of this podcast episode. If you're listening on a podcast, it's going to be in the description. If you're watching this on YouTube, it's down below in the description. Fallon, I know that you are on TikTok, so I am going to have a link to your TikTok. where else can our Found family find you and help support you?
Instagram, especially. I'm all over my Instagram.
Mhm.
TikTok, Facebook. I think I'm some places on Facebook, but that's kind of not really as big as my TikTok and my Instagram. I have to think of other social media. I wanted to do a YouTube, but I haven't gotten quite that far yet. So just
And I
mainly
love how
Instagram
you
and
said the
TikTok.
word yet. See,
Yeah.
that word opens possibilities. So maybe this could be, we can actually have this on your YouTube if you'd like to have it as your first video.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just thought of
Absolutely.
that.
Yeah. Cool.
Amazing, amazing. Yes, so I will have your TikTok and your Instagram linked. Amazing, amazing, amazing. Thank you again. It's been such an honor and such a pleasure, and I am so I'm so ready to just take on the rest of the day, and I hope that you all are as well.
Oh my gosh, I so am.
Yes,
I'm
thank
super
you
excited.
again.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you. Oh my gosh.